Everybody here? Sweet. All right, well, we'll get the recording going. Yeah, do a little intro. So hi, everybody. I'm Alex. I'm the Director of Education at Roadmap. Good to see ya. I will be your dialogue guide, the guide on this dialogue journey that we're going to go on, I suppose. And then a little bit about me as it pertains to dialogue. I am a writer myself, and then I was also an actor. I was an actor ever since I was about 12 years old. So I've tangled with a lot of different kinds of dialogue, and I still kind of read like an actor. So personally, I think that's a great perspective to give you guys if you yourself are not actors or don't have any good friends who are actors. So that's why we put this dialogue class together. Cool. All right, so plan for today. I have a fun little lecture with a slideshow. There is only one slideshow, but there are multiple slides with a slideshow that I've made. So we're going to go through that, questions, and then we'll get into everybody's pages and feedback and all that stuff. Cool. Sweet. Let's do it.
And will a recording of this be available afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, probably. Usually I can get them up by like Monday, Tuesday at the latest. Cool. All righty. Da-da-da. Yep, and Dialogue Clinic. So you're both here for that because I have both your pages. So I know you know what you're doing. But I have had somebody like, I think they got this link accidentally and they were like, oh, this is not the feature writing class. And then they like left in the middle of it. It was hilarious. Okay, cool. So we're going to go through just some basic dialogue terminology, which I think everybody knows, but just in case there's any confusion, dialogue refers to two or more characters speaking to each other, whereas one character talking would be a monologue. You know, mono means one, di means two. Pretty standard stuff, but just in case there's any confusion. Well, let me move. Okay, cool. All right. So whenever we talk about dialogue, we're usually, like roughly, we're talking about two different types of dialogue. And there's some variation and some combination between the two, but for simplicity's sake, we're looking at realistic and heightened. So realistic dialogue is just what it sounds like. Natural, conversational, organic. You know, when listening to this dialogue, you shouldn't think, I am listening to lines that a writer wrote in a script. You should think, I am listening to two people talking, and this is more or less how two people talk. So typically, if you're working in sort of a more grounded genre, like very serious dramas, social commentary, that kind of stuff, usually it lives more in a realistic space. So like Spotlight was an example that came to mind for me. And I think that was part of the genius of that movie, was just how quiet and natural everything sounded. Like there weren't a lot of big moments. With the exception of like Mark Ruffalo. He has a big speech, but for the most part, it's super quiet, it's super natural. You feel almost like you're just a fly on the wall watching these people live their lives. And then on the other side of the spectrum, heightened dialogue, it's bigger, it's snappier, it's sharper, it's a lot more showy, I guess. So usually this is used for comedies, you know, like to set up your jokes, like it's the 1-2 punch. And then, you know, things like action, like more heavily stylized work. So think Tarantino is a good example. Joss Whedon is another one. The Coen brothers, even you could probably argue like Wes Anderson to an extent. So think that when you're thinking of heightened dialogue. And then one thing to note is that one is not better than the other. Because a lot of people think that if it's not realistic, then it's not good. Most scripts actually have a combination of the two. They sort of balance each other out depending on what the scene needs and what that character is like. Cool. Okie dokie. So the scene structure side of things, usually good to talk about because a lot of times dialogue is the marker of a scene structure and how the scene moves. So traditionally, you structure a scene just like you do a story. It's got a beginning, a middle, there's an end, some kind of conflict of some sort happens. It can be big conflict, but it doesn't have to be. And then we either have a resolution, or if we don't resolve it, then we springboard into the next scene. So more generally speaking, and this is kind of an actor perspective thing, scenes either rise or they fall. So falling scene basically means that we did not resolve the conflict. So let's say we have a scene wherein we have to change the tire on the car because the tire has gone flat, and we're trying to change the tire. We have a little bit of a fight about how best to do it. I want to read the manual. Somebody else doesn't want to read the manual. It's a whole thing. We get the tire out of the trunk only to discover that, wouldn't you know, this tire is flat as well. And then the next scene, we see us like calling AAA or something like that. So that scene has the conflict unresolved at the end. We did not succeed in changing the tire, thus requiring the second scene wherein we do actually succeed in changing the tire or take steps to solve this problem. Rising scene, just the opposite. Same scenario, except we actually changed the tire at the end. We figured it out. And then a cardinal rule of screenwriting, I'm sure you guys have heard this, is come in late and leave early. Basically what that means is we don't need a lot of, extraneous space on either end of the scene. So the example I give is like a scene in a coffee shop, like two characters are meeting in a coffee shop. Maybe it's a rom-com, it's a first date. We just want to see the two of them in the coffee shop together. We don't want to see the person who got there first come in, order the coffee, acquire the coffee, sit down with the coffee, drink their coffee, be nervous, and then the date comes in. We just want to start right when the date comes in, get to the good stuff. Cool. Okie dokie. So now we're getting into the stuff that's really, really fun, which is subtext. So subtext is literally what is underneath the text. So oftentimes, the real meaning behind what a character is saying, thinking, feeling is not in what they are actually saying. It's how they say it. It's what they don't say. It's, little nods in the dialogue, little nods in the character description to indicate that something else is going on other than what they are actually verbally saying to this other person. The really bad example that I always give, just because it's easy, is if a character says, somebody asks, oh, how are you doing? And they say, oh, fine. And they've kind of got that little break in the voice, like there was kind of a pause there. There's a little bit of a shrug, and then you go, oh, you're not fine, are you? You're trying really hard not to cry, but you're gonna say that you're fine. All right, and then I have some examples because I like examples, so I'm gonna play this clip, and then you guys give me a thumbs up if you can hear it, because we had some audio issues on our Zoom call yesterday, so I want to make sure it all works. But this is from Casablanca, which is one of the best movies to ever movie, in my opinion. I love it so, so much. If you have not seen it, watch it at some point. It does not have to be your favorite movie. That's okay. I won't take offense if it's not. So in this clip, Rick, Humphrey Bogart right here, he is an American expatriate living in Northern Africa in World War II. He owns sort of a speakeasy bar, gin joint, piano lounge kind of thing. And everything is fine. Life is going on as best as it can in Northern Africa in World War II. And then this mysterious woman walks in, and all of a sudden Rick's world is coming apart. Oh, no. Nope. Nope. No. Take two. All right, let's try that again. There we go.
Boss? Boss? Yeah?
Sorry, I can't hear anything.
She walks into mine.
And pause. All right, cool. I think somebody sent me something in the chat, but for some reason it won't pull up the chat right now. No, go back. Goodness gracious. Cool. So real quick before I ask what was in that chat. So in this scene, you know, that's the big line of Casablanca. One of the big lines. There's a couple of really iconic lines. So it can be a little bit hard to hear that with fresh ears, of all the gin joints and all the towns and all the world, she walked into mine. And if we can just imagine that we don't know the story as well as we probably do, in that line, there's a lot of information about how Rick sees the world. Rick is very cynical. You know, the world is not a kind place to him. The world has not been kind to him. We don't necessarily know the full details of it yet at this point in the movie. But with that line, there's this sense of, you know, of course the world is cruel. Of course the world is mean. Because of all the gin joints and all the towns and all the world, she walked into mine. Because that's just how the world goes. Things don't work out for me. Things have never worked out for me. Things are never going to work out for me. My past and the hurt in it is going to follow me no matter where I go. Except, of course, without saying that, we've truncated it into one of the best lines in moviedom. Okay, cool. So that was the Casablanca bit. And then whoever put something in the chat, was that a question or just like a comment? Do I need to address that, or can you not hear me? Oh, okay, hold on.
The Casablanca clip, I could not hear the Casablanca. Yeah.
No. Well then. So sorry, guys. All right, shall we try to replay, or do you just want to move on now that I've spoiled it? Oh, say again. I think you're both muted.
It doesn't matter to me. You, Daniel?
Dear. I appear to be frozen.
I'd like to hear it, yeah.
No. Okay. 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 Da, da, da. Okay, well, that was a fun adventure. Sorry, guys. Like, y'all we're chatting, and all of a sudden the computer is just like, nope, we're done. I was like, oh, that's great. That's fun. Thank you, computer, for doing that to me right in the middle of a class. That was awesome. Okie dokie. So foraging, jumping back in. I believe, Daniel, you had said that you wanted to hear the Casablanca clip right before my computer decided it was gonna like stage a strike or something. So let's go back and do that really quick. And then we can go on, and hopefully the audio will work. Otherwise, I'm just going to reenact all of the scenes in my slideshow to the best of my ability. Maybe I'll do accents, like find extra hats and like costumes and get them reenacted. I told you guys I used to be an actor. Like, if anybody could pull it off, I think it's me. Okay. Let's see, take 2. All right. Try this again. Nice big screen. So far, so good. Okay. Nope. Why is it doing that? Go back. Stop that.
Boss? Boss?
Yeah?
Boss, ain't you going to bed?
Not right now.
Ain't you planning on going to bed in the near future?
No.
You ever going to bed?
No.
Well, I ain't sleepy either.
Good, then have a drink.
No, not me,
I
boss.
don't have a drink.
Boss, let's get out of here.
No, sir. I'm waiting for a lady.
Please, boss, let's go. Ain't nothing but trouble for you here.
Coming back? I know she's coming back.
We'll take the car and drive all night. We'll get drunk. We'll go fishing and stay away until she's
Shut
gone.
up and go home, will you?
No, sir. I'm staying right here.
I grab Bugatti, then she walks in. Well, that's the way it goes. One in, one out. Sam,
Yes, boss.
it was December 1941 in Casablanca. What time is it in New York?
What? My watch stopped.
I bet they're asleep in New York. I bet they're asleep all over America. Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
Did we get it that time? Ah, yes. Thank heavens. All right, cool. Yeah, I spoiled that line for you guys. If you haven't seen the movie, or it's been a little while since you've seen the movie, but there's a reason that line is so iconic. There's so much weight in it. You can really feel the cynicism and the, oh man, my life is terrible, my life is always going to be terrible sentiment. And of course, you have Humphrey Bogart, who is fantastic to say that line. Okay, so fingers crossed that we keep this trend going of audio working. And then this is another subtext example. This is a clip from an awesome little movie called Almost Famous, written and directed by Cameron Crowe. And I believe it won Best Screenplay, I want to say like 2001, 2002, 2000, early 2000s for sure. And it is about a young journalist who's 15, 16 years old. He gets the chance of a lifetime to follow a rock band around in the 70s and write an article about them for Rolling Stone. So while he is there, he develops a crush on our young Kate Hudson, who plays a sort of groupie of the band who's also following the band around. And she has a bit of a relationship with the guitarist. And then right before this clip is towards the end of the movie, the guitarist is planning to move to New York and basically leave the band, like retire. And so she is thinking about, uprooting her life and going to see him and stay with him in New York. And our young journalist is trying to convince her not to do that. All right, roll clip.
So if you could find out from Russell.
Penny.
Forget it. I'm flying to New York myself. I've got a bunch of partial tickets. I know his ex-wife, current girlfriend thing is
I'm not sure that's a good idea.
What are you saying? What are you talking about? Did Russell say something?
No. No, I don't know anything.
Well, I know he wants me there.
Wake up! Don't go to New York.
Why are you yelling at me?
I thought we were going to Morocco. There is no Morocco. There's never been a Morocco. There's not even a Penny Lane. I don't even know your real name.
If I ever met a man in the real world who looked at me the way you just looked at me...
When and where does this real world occur? I mean, I am really confused here. All these rules and all these sayings and nicknames.
Honey, you're too sweet for rock and roll.
Sweet? Where do you get off? Where do you get sweet? I am dark and mysterious and pissed off, and I could be very dangerous to all of you. I am not sweet, and you should know that about me. I am the enemy.
Look, you should be happy for me. You don't know what he says to me in private. Maybe it is love, as much as it can be for somebody...
Who sold you to Humble Pie for $50 and a case of beer? I was there. I was there. Oh, God. I'm sorry.
What kind of beer?
Aww. All right, cool. So in that scene, we've got two subtext things going on. First one being that he wants her to see him as, a grown-up who's smart and capable and like, hey, look at me. I can be this for you. This guy is bad news. I can be, your future, effectively. But the real meat belongs to Miss Kate Hudson. And I would argue that this scene is probably what nabbed her that Oscar nomination, because she was nominated for Best Supporting Actress for this movie, in that "what kind of beer" line there. So in that line, there's a decent amount, there's some humor, obviously, because it's a bit of a joke. It's kind of a defense mechanism. Because oftentimes when something hurts, if we can joke about it, then it doesn't seem to hurt as much, or at least we don't reveal that it hurts as much as it really does. But there's a decent amount of self-worth issues and self-esteem issues and self-loathing in that line. Because throughout this whole movie, she has sort of been dealing with the fact, is she just another groupie? Is she special to this guy? Does he really love her? Is she worth anything beyond her sexuality and all that kind of stuff? So in that line there, it's a little bit of it all kind of hits her in a minute there. And then, she makes the joke of, oh, what kind of beer? Maybe, if it was domestic beer, I'd be pissed. But if it's nice imported beer, then that's a different matter. If it's fancy beer, then okay, we're good. But there is some degree of maybe I'm really not worth any more to this guy than $50 and a case of beer, because he effectively pimped her out to his friend. Was like, hey, I'll hook you up with this pretty young groupie if you just give me $50 and a case of beer. So that's kind of what's going on in that. in that scene there. And of course, you know, this is one of the better acting roles in Kate Hudson's career. So you had a great actor who married the role really well to play that for you. Okie dokie. Great. So now to talk accents. Accents are hard in scripts, just to put it bluntly. So if you do have a character with an accent or who speaks in some kind of dialect, please don't write it out phonetically, and definitely do not use the phonetic alphabet. I've seen people do that before. Even if you are a trained linguist, your reader probably is not, so they won't really understand what's going on. And ultimately, the goal with accents in dialogue is to give the feel of the accent without hindering the read. Like that's the bar that you're trying to meet. So there are a couple of easy swaps that you could make. So like we have ya instead of you, for example, or gonna, you know, Gonna instead of going to. Those are perfectly fine. Those don't like bother the reader. You know, nobody's going to look at that and go, I've never seen that word before. But for anything that's like really, really thick, it's probably better to just say character X speaks with Y accent and just leave it at that. But if you're working with an accent that's easier to manipulate the language of your dialogue to match it in a way, then there's a couple of tricks that you can use. And we have some examples. If it will pull up. Cool. Alrighty. So example number 1 is from The Wire, which if you have not seen The Wire, HBO show, I think it definitely came out post 9/11. So let's ballpark it at like 2003. It's one of the better like hour-long TV dramas. So if you're into hour-long serialized, like hard-hitting dramas, definitely check The Wire out. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but it is definitely worth a watch. So we're gonna check out the teaser real quick. So in the teaser, to give you some context, you know, we're at a crime scene. A cop is interviewing a bystander about the crime, trying to get some information. And here we go. So the cop is McArdle. He becomes McNulty in the show. So he has, so your boy's name is what? Snot. Snot. Huh. You called this guy Snot. Snot Boogie, yeah. Snot Boogie. He liked the name? What? Snot Boogie. We've got a shrug. So we've got this kid whose mama went on to christen him, so on and so forth. Snot. So we snot forever. Doesn't seem fair. Life be that way, I guess. So here's where we're starting to get into that West Baltimore. At least I think it's West Baltimore. It is West Baltimore, right? Yep, West Baltimore. I always want to call it South Baltimore for some reason, but that's not right. So here's where we're starting to get into that West Baltimore sound and kind of the rhythm and the quality of their vocal tone that they have over there. So who shot Snot? Come on, I didn't see it, man. You liked him, didn't you? Snot was, oh, I'm not going to be able to do that very well. But you see how he's changing the wording a little bit, like he's combining words. We've got an ain't going no court, so he's manipulating grammar to give you the feel of that accent and the feel of how these people speak. And he's doing it without disturbing the read. So you can still read this and go, oh yes, I completely understand what's going on. I have no problems following this at all. But in your head, you can start to hear that sound. So that is one example. And if you have not seen The Wire, recommended, good show. And then we've stopped sharing. Why have we stopped sharing? Having all sorts of technology problems today, guys. All right, cool. So the accent in The Wire is a little more overt. It's a thicker accent. It's a more distinct accent. The next example that we're going to take a look at is from Fargo. This is the feature, not the pilot, just to clarify. So Fargo takes place in North Dakota. So a very different kind of sound. And this is sort of a bizarre script copy. So just ignore weird formatting things. I don't know why it's like this, but this is the only copy I could find. All right, cool. So we are in Fargo, North Dakota. You know, we're in a hotel lobby. Clerk is talking. So, and how are you today, sir? So far, everything is fine. Ignore the ad. Real good now. I'm checking in, Mr. Anderson. Okay, Mr. Anderson, you're still planning on staying with us just the night then? You bet. So far, everything's fine. No real sense of the dialect yet. Nothing they will do. We've got the news anchor. We've got Katie. All right, so here's where we first start getting a little hint of that sound. So the waitress says, "Can I warm that up for you there?" You bet. Scrolling on. I'm Jerry. You're Jerry? Yeah. So as you keep going on, you've got a lot of yas, ya, uhs, a lot of sort of nasal sounds and words that would put the speaker's voice up into their nose. If you're a singer, this would be your head voice, in order to give the feel of that dialect, because it is a little more forward in the face. It's more sinusy, I guess. That sounds mean. I don't want to sound mean, but it is more up in the nose and more up in the head voice than something like Louisiana, which is deep in your throat and almost down in your chest whenever you speak. So as the script goes on, we've got all of these ya, yas, yeah, sure. Even sure, you could make the argument is helping with that. Yeah, huh, yeah. Just little subtle things like that to give the feel of the accent, and then you can let your actor take it from there. Cool. And we're going back to the slideshow. And there we go. Cool. And then, of course, you know, thick accent, just tell us that the character speaks with this accent. Write the dialogue more or less like you would normally do it. You can do a little bit of sentence manipulation maybe. So if it's one of those accents that splits infinitives, or maybe, you know, switches the subject and the verb around, you know, give that a go. But, you know, you don't want to hinder the read. You're better off just telling us what it is and letting the actor take it from there. Cool. All right. So characterization. This is a big deal for us former actors because, you know, to give you guys a little bit of insight into how it worked, at least whenever I was still acting, is whenever actors would go into audition for a film or a TV show, even commercials sometimes, they wouldn't ever give you the full script. I think I got the full script once in all the years that I was auditioning, and it was for a CW pilot. But usually what you would get is you would get the log line, you would get maybe like a paragraph description of your character, possibly some additional context of like where it takes place, you know, time period, that kind of stuff. And then you would get the audition sides. So the scenes which you are to read for the audition. And I've never seen audition sides go north of 12 to 14 pages, and that's for like a series regular and a pilot. So oftentimes actors are trying to build a character out of very little. So when actors read scripts, we're little detectives. We're looking for clues and nods and any information that the writer has given us in order to build a person. So in writing your dialogue, keep in mind that actors are going to be analyzing every single word choice trying to figure out who this person is and why they are the way they are. So, you know, you can tell a lot about a person based on how they speak. So, like, are they outspoken? Do they use contractions? Do they curse? Are they very respectful? Are they quieter? All those kinds of things are clues to your actor as to who this person is. Because somebody who is outspoken and curses a lot is going to be different than somebody who is quiet and sort of, you know, subdued and a little meek. So things like that. Okie dokie. Cool. And then we've got some clips. Let's see if the trend of you guys being able to hear the audio continues. So for this one, I'm cheating a little bit because this is actually a monologue, but it is a fantastic, fantastic example of characterization, and it's tremendous fun. So if you've not seen The Marvelous Miss Maisel, it is an Amazon original show. I believe it won a couple of Emmys for sure. Which ones, I don't quite remember, but I imagine one of them was Best TV Comedy. And in the show, Midge, this lovely lady right here, she is a housewife in the 1950s in New York. And then when she divorces her husband, she decides to become a stand-up comedian. And hijinks ensue. But this is like the very first time that we meet Midge. So let's play, and then give me thumbs up if you can hear it.
Who stands in the middle of a ballroom after 3 glasses of champagne on a completely empty stomach? And I mean completely empty, because fitting into this dress required no solid food for 3 straight weeks. Who does that? I do. This day is perfect. It's like a dream. Or a nightmare, if you're my father. How much for the flowers? Who eats mushroom caps? Do the caterers have any idea what the Jews just went through a few years ago?
2 cakes, 1 for eating.
We're very happy.
But this day has been long in planning. Anyone who knows me knows I plan. At 6, I decided Russian literature would be my major. At 12, I found my signature haircut. At 13, I announced I was going to Bryn Mawr College.
In Katharine Hepburn's old room.
I have wonderful parents. I've had a very comfortable life, and though I knew that love would be great, I had no idea it would be anything that could justify what I paid for this dress.
What I paid for that dress. We're very happy.
And because it's better than anything I could have imagined, I thought I should get up here today and tell all of you that I love this man. And yes, there is shrimp in the egg rolls.
Miriam! Rabbi, she's kidding.
And there we go. I love using this clip because it gets everybody to smile. All right, so we learn a lot about Midge in this little opening monologue of ours. So we learn that she is smart, she's quick-witted, fast on her feet. She's got a bit of a mischievousness to her. That whole bit about the shrimp and the egg rolls was actually a joke. Oh no, have we done it again? Okay, are we back? Huh. Like, I saw the spinning wheel of death and I was like, no, not again. All right, cool. So we're forging ahead. So the bit about the egg rolls, it is honestly a joke that she said, but her family spends like the better part of a year trying to make amends with the rabbi for that joke. So she's got a bit of a mischievousness to her. She's not afraid to push against social boundaries, to sort of challenge things, especially for the sake of humor. And she's comfortable up on stage in front of a group of people talking and telling stories and getting laughs. So a good while before she begins her journey as a stand-up comedian in earnest, we can see that this is where she's going. And she was kind of made for that career. Plus, it's just fun. And it's a great show. Highly recommended. Okay, cool. So for the opposite end of the tonal spectrum, we have a clip from a movie called The Drop with James Gandolfini and Tom Hardy. I do believe that this was James Gandolfini's last movie before he passed. If it's not his last, then it is his second to last. It's like right before he died. So in this movie, James Gandolfini and Tom Hardy run what is called a drop bar. I have no idea if this is a real thing, but in the world of the movie, when the mob in New York is done, collecting their money and fixing the books and selling the drugs and doing the dealings, all of the money is taken to a single bar, dropped there, and then a mob representative comes and picks it up and takes it off to do whatever it is they do with the money. So James Gandolfini and Tom Hardy own one of these drop bars, but one night, wouldn't you know, the bar gets robbed, and they find the drop money and they take that too. So now our heroes are up a creek trying to figure out what to do, how to get the money, how to appease the mob, how to survive, all that kind of stuff. Cool.
Okay.
Dolly thinks we should visit Europe. What I become? A guy that goes to Europe with his sister. Hops on a tour bus. The camera on my neck like a jerk off. What?
You need to see this, Marv.
No, I don't. I don't need to do anything. I'm just gonna stand right here. I'm just gonna stand right here.
No, you really should take a look at this.
I don't need to see Europe. I don't need to see Dottie. And I don't need to see what's in that bag.
Dun, dun, dun. Huge dramatic music. Cool. So really, really short little scene between these two here, but hopefully you can already see the differences in them. So James Gandolfini, he's a talker. He talks up a big game, talks around problems, but when faced with one, immediately does not want to deal with it and is vocal about it. Like, this is not my problem. I don't want to look at that. I don't want to deal with this. Not my issue. Tom Hardy's character is much quieter. He has, oh gosh, if I had to, weigh them throughout the movie, I'd say James Gandolfini maybe has like 70% of the dialogue. Tom Hardy is very quiet, but he's very intent. He's very focused. You give him a problem, he will put his nose to the grindstone and he will fix it. He will solve it one way or another. Whereas James Gandolfini talks up a big game, kind of wants to be a gangster, but when dealing with actual gangster situations, he don't want anything to do with it. And he has no qualms about letting you know that he doesn't want anything to do with it either, which is interesting. All right, cool. Okie dokie. So here we are. We have come to the much maligned exposition. So you guys probably all know this, but exposition is just giving the audience information directly. Personally, I think exposition gets a bad rap because usually people are like, no, you cannot have exposition like ever at all of any sort, which just isn't realistic because there are instances where you need characters to be upfront with what's happening and what they feel. Otherwise, we would never know what anything means or what anything is going on. And harkening back to the subtext that we talked about earlier, you can't have subtext unless you have established some kind of context for which the subtext can live. So, if we hadn't seen like Rick Blaine, running his gin joint and generally being sort of cynical, like generally being a grumpy Gus, we wouldn't be able to read all of the weight of all the gin joints and all the towns and all the world. She walked into mine. It'd still be a great line, but it wouldn't pack the same kind of punch. So sometimes exposition is just unavoidable. Like you just have to do it. Especially in pilots and then early on in features when you're still kind of establishing things, you're still establishing the world and how things work. So when you have to do exposition, like you have information of some kind that the audience has to know and they have to understand it by X point for the story to go forward, I have 2 tricks for sneaking it into dialogue and making it work. So trick number 1 is have character A give character B information that both character B and the audience needs. So for this one, think about like cops, doctors, military personnel, specialists, teachers, whoever, explaining a situation to a character who doesn't have their expertise. So, Mr. So-and-so, I'm very sorry, but, the murderer is still at large. We think they may be coming after you. We are going to post a policeman outside of your house, so on and so forth. Trick number 2, and this is my personal favorite, I use this one a lot in my own writing, is if you have 2 characters who already know the pertinent information, then try to find a way to incite conflict between the 2 as a way to have them like hash things out or air dirty laundry. So I don't know about you guys, but just about any time I've ever been in a fight with a friend or a loved one, it is amazing how specific we will get about what led us to the fight. And, we'll like rehash a bunch of stuff that we both already know. So like a really bad example of this would be, like, oh, okay, so we went into business together, like we opened this flower shop and we agreed that we were going to split the work 50-50, but we didn't split the work 50-50. I've been doing 70% of the work. I've always been doing 70% of the work ever since I was a kid. I have been carrying more than my fair share of the weight and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That kind of thing. Yeah. All right, cool. So let's see here. I have 2 examples. I have 2 examples for everything. It's kind of like a thing that I do. So this first one is from Sons of Anarchy, the pilot. Great pilot, depending on your tolerance for bikers and mayhem, worth a watch. But in this, or before this scene, the context for this scene is Jax, our main character right here. He's a member of a biker gang, and his ex-wife is pregnant. Early on in the pilot, he's calling her, trying to get a hold of her. She's not answering. His mother goes to check on her, only to find her in a very bad state, having injected a bunch of drugs and, is bleeding, and they rush her to the hospital. So Jax and the biker crew are coming up to find out just how bad the situation is, how bad a shape is she in, how bad a shape is the baby in. So let's roll clip.
What the hell happened?
When was the last time you saw her?
A couple of weeks.
Her hands and feet were full of tracks. Toxicology reports aren't back yet, but it's most likely crank.
The baby.
We had to do an emergency C-section. He's 10 weeks premature.
Holy shit.
Come on, let's sit down and I'll walk you through it.
Just tell me.
He's got a congenital heart defect and gastroschisis, a tear in his abdomen. The gastro and the early birth are from the drugs, but the CHD is probably...
The family flaw.
Yes, it's genetic. Either one would be serious, but not life-threatening. However, the 2 of them together... Dr. Namid gives him a 20% chance, and I'm afraid that's being optimistic.
Oh my God.
She never wanted to talk to me. I didn't know.
Arobi said she missed her last 3 appointments. No one knew. Dr. Namid wants to fix his belly first. Then, if he stabilizes, he'll go in and try to repair the heart. Sorry, Jax. I can take you to see him now.
All right, cool. So that's pretty much a textbook example of trick number 1. Have someone with advanced knowledge give that advanced knowledge to the audience, but also a character who doesn't have that expertise. And in this case, it's very, very important for the rest of the pilot that we understand how serious the situation is with Jax's son, because, spoiler alert, Jax is going to go do some violence to the people who sold his ex-wife the drugs. And without the context of how dire the situation is with his son, that violence may seem a little much, a little shocking. But if we understand that this is a father lashing out at someone who hurt his child and trying to protect his child from future harm, it makes it a little more palatable and keeps Jax likable, which is important for your main character in a pilot. All right, cool. So example number 2 is also from a pilot. This is from the pilot Supernatural, which the show is wrapping this year, or at least should be if they're able to finish shooting, who knows. But it has been on for something like 15 seasons. It's kind of crazy. But in the pilot, you know, to give you some context before this scene happens, the story is about 2 brothers. Their mother died under mysterious and horrific circumstances. And then we flash forward to, I think they're in their early 20s. Yeah, because they're in college. So we flash forward to when the boys are in their early 20s. And this one right here, Sam, he is in college, getting ready to go to law school. He has this lovely girlfriend that he lives with and adores, and he has friends, and everything is just fantastic in his life. And it seems like that shadow of his mother's death hasn't touched him at all. And roll clip.
Tiger.
Dean? You scared the crap out of me.
It's because you're out of practice. Or not. Get off me.
Dean, what the hell are you doing here?
I was looking for a beer.
What the hell are you doing here?
Okay, all right. We gotta talk.
The phone?
If I'd have called, would you have picked up?
Sam?
Jess. Hey. Dean, this is my girlfriend, Jessica.
Wait, your brother, Dean?
I love the Smurfs. You know, I gotta tell you, you are completely out of my brother's league.
Just let me put something on.
No, I wouldn't dream of it. Seriously. Anyway, I gotta borrow your boyfriend here, talk about some private family business, but nice meeting you.
No. No, whatever you want to say, you can say it in front of her.
Okay. Dad hasn't been home in a few days.
So he's working overtime on a Miller time shift. He'll stumble back in sooner or later.
Dad's on a hunting trip. And he hasn't been home in a few days.
Jess, excuse us. We have to go outside.
I mean, come on. You can't just break in middle of the night and expect me to hit the road with you.
You're not hearing me, Sammy. Dad's missing. I need you to help me find him.
You remember the poltergeist in Amherst? Or the Devil's Gates in Clifton? He was missing then, too. He's always missing, and he's always fine.
Not for this long. Are you gonna come with me or not?
I'm not.
Why not?
I swore I was done hunting. For good.
Come on, it wasn't easy, but it wasn't that bad.
Yeah? When I told Dad I was scared of the thing in my closet, he gave me a .45.
What was he supposed to do?
I was 9 years old. He was supposed to say, don't be afraid of the dark.
Don't be afraid of the dark. What, are you kidding me? Of course you should be afraid of the dark. You know what's out there.
Yeah, I know. But still, the way we grew up after Mom was killed, and Dad's obsession to find the thing that killed her. But we still haven't found the damn thing. So we kill everything we can find.
Save a lot of people doing it, too.
You think Mom would have wanted this for us? The weapon training and melting the silver into bullets? Man, Dean, we were raised like warriors.
So what are you gonna do? You just gonna live some normal apple pie life? Is that it?
No, not normal. Safe.
And that's why you ran away.
I was just going to college. It was Dad who said if I was gonna go, I should stay gone. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, well, Dad's in real trouble right now. If he's not dead already, I can feel it. I can't do this alone.
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to.
And scene. Okay. We learn a lot about the brothers, their relationship, their backstory, their history, and just the world of the show. So up until this point, we don't actually know that they're a family of monster hunters. Like, that's what they do. They hunt monsters, they hunt ghosts, all the things that go bump in the night. It's kind of the premise of the show. But up until now, so like things have been weird, but we don't have any context for it yet. So by putting these two in conflict, we're able to hash out all of this history that they've had. So the hunts that they've been on, the fact that their dad has a drinking problem, you know, running away, going to college, like living a safe life, being raised like warriors and on the road and all that kind of stuff. These two both know all of this information because they were there, but giving them a fight, they rehash all of this out so that the audience can learn it. And learn it in a way that's a little more natural, it feels a little more real, a little more organic than one of them just turning directly to the camera and giving us their life story Hamlet style. Because I think that's what scares people about exposition, is they worry that it's going to feel not natural, like not how people normally talk. But if you can find ways to just disguise it in how people might normally interact, you can get away with it. Still give all this information and all this context. Cool. Okie dokie. And we have come to the question portion. Are there any questions, thoughts, feelings, emotions? Thankfully, we made it through that with only mild technical hiccups.
I had a question.
Yeah, lay it on me.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay. Going back to subtext, would you say, how much of it would you say is reliant upon your actor performing it, as opposed to what you want to add into the subtext? I mean, I always feel like that can go either way. Just want to hear what your thought is on that.
Yeah. I'd say it's probably about like, I'm going to give like a percentage ballpark and then, you know, take it with a grain of salt because I'm sure that there's a situation where this is not true. But I would say it's probably about like 65% script, 35, 35? That's how numbers work. 65, 35 script to actor. Because for an actor, you know, like actors are generally like imaginative people because, you know, we have to imagine an entire world in our head. And if you've ever seen like the behind the scenes where somebody's acting with green screen, oh no, did we do it again? Okay, nope, we're back. Spinning ball of death is gone. Everything's fine. So bless anybody who can act with green screen. But still, like, we still have to take our cues from the script. So even, like, there are some obvious examples, like, you know, if two characters are in a conversation or something and one of them, you know, like maybe looks to the other and says, well, you know, I'm glad things are working out for you. I'm glad you're happy. And then in an actor's head, we're like, oh, did they like have a relationship in the past? And even if it wasn't romantic, like what's going on? Because that's an interesting thing to say to somebody. So we still have to take our cues from the script, and you really can feel it in the dialogue. Subtext is one of those things that's hard to describe. It's almost like porn. Like, I know it when I see it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'd say 65, 35. And we're spinning again. Nope, we're back. Okay. Yeah, I hope that answers that question. If not, feel free to keep poking at me.
Just to think about it, I would probably say it's somewhere like that. It has to be from both. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then because a lot of times, at least in my experience as a writer and an actor, because I've been on both sides of the table, and some of the things that I've written have been filmed and performed, so I've gotten to see like other actors take it and run with it, which is really fun.
Yeah.
I may for example, I wrote a web series with a few other writers. We filmed it, great fun, tremendous enjoyment. And I had a scene that I had written where these are two leads who are going to be in a relationship, but they're not in a relationship yet. So they're still in that, dance. Do we like each other? Do we not? So they have a scene wherein they're talking about baking a cake and they're talking about coffee. And then how, frustrating it is that, this cake that we're baking is never going to be what it is in our head. Like, it's never going to be perfect. And so in this scene, my intention for it was that these two characters are going to relate to each other in the fact that they both have things that they love to do that are never going to be perfect, but that it's okay. It's the pursuit of the thing that matters. And our actors took it and turned it into this whole almost spiritual connection that these two characters have all of a sudden, because they have this thing in common. Like, they have this artist thing of theirs in common. And I was like, oh, I didn't really necessarily think I was writing that into the scene. Maybe I was subconsciously, but they saw that.
That's what I was wondering. Just to add on a little more to this was that when you are in the room with the actor, as a director, if you are in the room with an actor, they're bringing their own set of things to the table, and that can enhance that scene even more. Even if it's just them, the actor, wanting to change the dialogue a little bit to feed off of that, I guess.
Yeah. And that's one of the really fun things about film, is that it's so collaborative and there's so many different creative visions in it. So sometimes, you'll give a scene to an actor and, maybe you envisioned it one way, and not that they disregarded your vision, because you also, you don't want that. Like, I hired you to do a job, do the job. But they find something else in it, or they find a different angle on it that you hadn't necessarily thought of, and you're like, oh wow, that's fantastic, let's do that, let's run with that. I like that. Keep it. Yeah. All right, cool. We good? Awesome. Alrighty, so let's talk pages. And then real quick, before we talk pages, are you guys comfortable with your pages being shared on screen? Like, I can share my screen and we can look at pages. If not, absolutely do not worry about it. Not a big deal, but just wanted to ask.
That's cool with me.
Yeah, it's cool with me as well.
Daniel's cool. Okay, cool. Sorry guys, Zoom is a little glitchy today. So it's like, oh, did you say something? I can't tell. We're just gonna forge ahead. Cool, well, we only have 2 of you, so we can take some time with these pages. But who would like to go first? I've scared you. You're terrified of me now. All right, well. All right, well, Daniel, you're unmuted, so let's go ahead and just have you go first.
Okay.
Cool, let me pull it up and scroll up to the top. Sharing. Okay, cool. Awesome. So this is definitely towards the end of the script, right? Or it's right towards the end. Yeah, so how much much or how many pages are left after this scene? Like, what's the page count of your script?
98.
98. Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
It's like right at the very end. Cool. And then Desmond, for you, some context. Danny, she's a blind woman. Her father he died in a cruise ship accident. Am I remembering that correctly from your email?
He's missing.
Missing.
Yeah.
Cool. And then she's, sort of struggling to figure that out, and then is struggling with faith. Cool. So I put little sticky notes. So we use a lot of ellipses in this scene. So one thing I had thought as I was reading it was it might be a good idea to kind of like cherry pick your instances of ellipses.
Mm-hmm.
Pick some places where they would have a lot of punch in the read. And then, kind of let your actor, either real or imaginary, sort of find those other beats. Because, an actor should be able to find like beats and pauses and the natural rhythm of dialogue. Like that's a big part of their job. So just a thought, so that whenever somebody's reading it and they see an ellipses, they're like, "Ooh, this is different. Something important is happening."
Okay.
Cool. Why does that not have anything written on it? Oh, I remember what it was going to be. So I think you're probably going to want to capitalize the G on God there.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Possibly also the C on church. I'm not really sure what the rule is on that one, but since I think this is the Catholic Church, it might get capitalized. Yeah. Don't tell my grandparents, but I'm not super up to date on the etiquette here anymore. So maybe check on that. And then like very small, so I would switch the like okay to okay with the AY. What did I say here? Oh, another capital G on the God there. And then I think this one might be a typo. Because we've got a question mark and then the comma.
Yeah.
Cool. And then we've got a couple more ellipses here. And then kind of, so I think for this line, it would probably, like personally, I think the actor in me kind of wants it to be, I have to find my brother and just let that land. But how do you see this moment playing out in your head? So this is like the big, conflict of faith here. Like father.
Yeah, this is basically arriving at a time when both her and the father, the priest, have had encounters and sort of been building up. And so this being the thesis of the story, which is her frustration, exasperation with the religion, with the practices of the faith. So yeah, meaning like she's tired of listening, and then the switch to I have to find my brother.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, got it. So maybe keep an eye on this one because, and it could be like Alex bias. So some more bias of mine, in addition to being an actor, I grew up in Oklahoma. So when I see yeah, I think that's like yeah, like
Oh.
yes, or an abbreviation for you.
Yeah, no, that's actually a Latin thing.
Okay, got it. So
Yeah,
that is just
yeah.
me not knowing.
Yeah, right, okay. Sorry.
No, no worries at all. So maybe, like keep an eye on it. And if if a lot of people are not picking up on that, then you might want to maybe like swap it out with another similar expression or turn of phrase or something like that, just so that somebody's not going like, so do we agree or do we not agree?
Right.
For us, yeah, for us folks who don't know what's going on. And I know I had like one other note, but I can't find it for some reason. Oh, okay. I didn't actually click on the sticky note. So prisms of perspectives. Is this kind of a concept that's been talked about earlier in the movie?
Not so much in a clear way. As far as the prisms of perspectives, I mean, there is some introductions of characters who are either shamans or evangelists, and that's sort of, I guess, what refers to by prisms of perspectives when it comes to faith. So I guess that's where it would come from. The different religious leaders that she goes to see.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. I love the phrase. I think it's such a cool phrase. It did on the read, I did sort of go, oh, that's an interesting way to phrase that. So I was wondering if this is something that's been, like maybe they've discussed this before, or this was something that came up in conversation earlier in the movie between these two, or something like that.
That particularly did not come into any conversations prior between the two of them, but it is like the Danny character has gone to see other religious leaders. So I don't know if that quite fits with him saying that, if they haven't discussed it before. I don't know.
Yeah, well, because effectively what I think he's getting at, you can correct me if I'm misreading, is, Danny's talking about, she's keeping her relationship with God, Mother Earth, something that my Oklahoma voice is scared to pronounce because I'm going to do it wrong. And how would you say that?
Yukahu.
Got it.
Yukahu, which is in folklore. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Sorry, I was like yelled at in acting school for like mispronouncing things all the time, so I'm like terrified. And the sea. So she's talking about these other forces in the world, and she's kind of likening them to God, or she's putting them in the same space as God. And Padre is not about that. So I kind of got what prisms of perspectives meant. I was wondering, I was like, it's a great phrase, but it's such a specific phrase that if they don't have the context of having discussed this before, like I wonder, because if his ultimate goal is to basically say all of these other things are not the true path, or they're just alternate, what am I trying to say? They're just like alternate, ideologies or something like that. And they don't have the context of using prisms of perspective to discuss these things, then, it, like from his perspective, he would run the risk of her not understanding what that meant. And not being able to connect the dots. So it might be something to consider, maybe like if you really like the phrase and you want to keep the phrase, because it is a good phrase, like working it in somewhere earlier, so that isn't necessarily the first time we've heard it, so that we're like, ah, yes, Prisms of Perspective, it's coming back. We planted it, now we're paying it off.
That makes sense.
Or, you know, throwing some other kind of terminology or phrase there that might be like more common, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It does, because I mean, I do see it as something that kind of comes, I mean, it's in the conversation, it's, you know, but it sort of comes, it kind of stands out. Where maybe if it's touched upon earlier in another encounter, then we could see it to its full term, you know.
Yeah, we can kind of establish it and then bring it back at the end.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh no, I've got the spinning ball of death. All right, hopefully this still works. But I can't scroll right now. It won't let me. Ah! Oh no. Ah. Oh, come on. Come on, computer. Why are you doing this to me? And we're back.
All right.
Hi, guys. Sorry. I don't know. I'm going to have to put on the hazmat suit and like take this thing to the Apple store and be like, please make it, don't do this. I promise my computer doesn't normally do this. This is new and exciting, this adventure we're on. Okay, cool. So back to the pages. Anyway, yes, Prisms of Perspective, plant it somewhere so that you can then pay it off. And then another little question that I had for you. So what is the relationship between Armando and Padre?
Armando is an evangelist. He says basically we're coming from the same place. However, it's revealed earlier in the story that, you know, he's basically your characteristic evangelist with, you know, sucking up money and all of that, and not being completely honest, where the Padre is, and, you know, he tries to draw more of a distinction between the two of them.
Okay, cool. Got it. Just wanted to make sure I was reading that right. Cool. And then where does this story take place?
It takes place in Puerto Rico, actually.
Okay.
In a small beach community.
Cool. Cool.
The story is about the community. So there's a lot of the Catholic themes
Mm-hmm.
through.
Gotcha. Cool. I just wanted to make sure that I was in fact interpreting things correctly. Because if you had told me, oh, it's set in like Detroit, I don't think you would. But if you did, I'd be like, oh, some of these turns of phrases might not quite fit. But Puerto Rico definitely seems to fit. Cool. Yeah, I don't have a huge amount of notes for you. Just a couple.
Yeah, I was just kind of. Basically, it's hard sometimes, I guess, with a scene because you don't know some of the context. But basically, my question, and I've worked on this obviously several times, but right now I'm trying to find more of a way, if there is a way to. I don't know the word I'm looking for, but basically something that is more revealing, or maybe not so blunt. Maybe it has to be blunt. I don't know, because this is the culmination.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wonder, because this is the second or third time rather that they're kind of having this conversation, but now it's becoming more like they're speaking their minds instead of layering it with subtext or whatever. So I don't know. I guess at this point in the story, it should be flat out. I don't know.
Yeah, I think especially if this is like the third time they've had this conversation, I get the sense that Danny is just fed up.
Yeah.
With Padre, but also just the situation at large.
Right.
So she's done messing around. Like, no more Mr. Nice Danny. I'm tell it like it is now.
Yeah, and I guess it has to be that way in order for it to drive the point home.
Yeah. I probably, without having read the rest of your script, it's hard to really say definitively. I don't think your instincts are off by having Danny be more explicit and kind of put her foot down and say all of what she's really thinking about this kind of deal, especially because you are sort of doing the whole put some conflict in there to get some information out. So see, you did it. Like, you knew what the class was going to be, and you went ahead and did it. Yeah, so I can't say definitively, but I don't think your instincts are off, especially if you're getting towards like the end of the movie where it's like, okay, we need like a climax or a culmination or a reveal of something in some kind.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think you're fine.
Okay.
Yeah. And then just maybe capitalize that Lord and get rid of one of those periods.
Okay.
I think just a little typo. Oh no, we've frozen again. Goodness gracious. All right, guys. Let me try stopping share and see if that like stabilizes things. What is going on with my computer? Like, is it my computer or my internet? I can't tell. All right, we're just gonna keep making this work. So if I like go away, just know that I'll be back as soon as I can kind of get this thing up and running. Oh, this does not bode well for the other webinars I have to moderate today. Whew, okay. Sweet. Well, Daniel, did you have like any last questions on that? Any like point in the script that you were like, oh, I don't know about this. Alex, can you take a closer look at this line?
I mean, there were like 2 other scenes that I was debating on which one to send. But I think the other scenes is more of injecting something else rather than a dialogue thing. I think that'll help with what the dialogue will be. And I just wanted to make a quick note in regards to dialogue. I mean, you know, how do you well, what do you think about the idea that one of the things I did in terms of trying to bring some realism to these characters was actually going to places, locations where these characters, real locations where these characters would be living in, and just kind of taking stuff from what I've heard, like almost verbatim. I've tried that out, and it seems to work. I don't know.
Yeah. I think things like that are fantastic. Like if you're able to go and exist in the place where these types of people exist in the real world, then absolutely take advantage of it. Because, you know, there's, you know, like there are certain just nuances and rhythms to the way people talk and the way people interact and communicate that without having gone there or without knowing that community, you just wouldn't know. And it breathes a certain like authenticity and like realness to the story where you're like, especially if somebody is from, you know, from that community, reads the script or watches the movie, they'll go, oh, they got it.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the one who didn't get it.
No.
You want to get it.
Yeah, no, that's important to me. So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Hey, the one that's coming to mind is like Brokeback Mountain, but I know other movies have definitely done this, where like they sent the script, the screenwriter, because it was based on a short story, but they sent the screenwriter, and then I think just Heath Ledger had been cast. I don't think Jake Gyllenhaal had been cast yet, but they sent Heath Ledger up to like northern Montana and basically just put them up in like a shack for a while and was like, okay, just hang out, get to know the space and the community and the people. Yeah, so that kind of thing. If you were able to do it, definitely do it. Yeah. All right, cool. All right, Desmond, let's see if my computer will like properly share your screen. Okay, fingers crossed that the tech works. All right, so far so good. Cool. And then I don't think, so can you give me a little bit of info about this story? So like where in the story does this scene take place? Is it a feature or a pilot?
This is a feature-length screenplay. This takes place maybe 15, 20 minutes into the story. And it's about a kid who is seen by his traditional Chinese family as a loser, and his dream is to be an MMA fighter, but he really wants to fit in, and he's got confidence issues.
Okay, cool. Love it. And then do you have a martial arts background? I see some like
I did a little bit. Those are just souvenirs, but I did a little bit of it, you know. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, this is gonna be fun. I practiced Taekwondo personally. So as soon as I saw that somebody got hit in the head or got kicked in the head, I was like, I've been there. Not fun. Do not recommend. 100% would not do again. Okay, cool. So Jake, what did I say here?
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not. Oh, I think just split in and two. Okay. I think in this case, just probably a little typo. And then Sebastian. I think you can probably leave it as then prove it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not that the to us is bad, but if you're looking for brevity, and then, you know, you can give your actor like the, they have the opportunity to like do a little head nod at the end if it's 3 words, just for some reason the rhythm works. So it could be, then prove it. That's a big exaggeration, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Okie dokie. So this is where he challenges a guy to a fight and then gets absolutely kicked in the head and knocked out cold, which I've never been knocked out cold from a kick to the head, but I have been kicked in the head. It's very disorienting. Okay, woman puts restraints. I think this one was just a typo. Was it? Ariel, a late 20s woman, puts restraints and then puts them on Jake.
Yeah, that looks like a bit of a typo, yeah. It would be put restraints on Jake. Yeah. Cool.
So just
cool.
Untypo. And then I think we might have another little typo. So we have Sarah Chan and then we go Dr. Channing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my bad.
No worries. Okay, cool. So this is where like he's just woken up in the hospital, having been kicked in the head and knocked unconscious, and then sedated in the ambulance because he was, you know, flailing around. Understandable. He's probably very disoriented.
Right.
Cool. I guess kind of lucky kid. It could have been much worse. What was I thinking here? My brain is okay. So for some reason, and you know, perhaps I'm misinterpreting the character, but this line didn't quite sit with me, and I can't quite articulate why. I'm not sure if it's because I'm trying to, you know, like maybe I just don't quite know if like, how old is he, 15? He's a sophomore.
He's in his late teens.
Oh, okay, so he's a little bit older. So like 17, 18?
Yeah.
Got it. I don't know if just my brain was like, I don't know if a kid that age would think about his brain upon waking up in the hospital, or if something else about it that just I haven't quite figured out, didn't quite land for me. But maybe keep an eye on it and see how people respond to it. But if you do decide to take it out, you know, you could easily just roll these 2 lines of the doctors together. So you could go, yes, you are a lucky kid. It could have been much worse. And then drop this yes. And we ran both a CT and an MRI. You know, thank God you did not break your neck and you don't have bleeding in your brain. So maybe keep an eye on that and see. But just as we're kind of talking it out. So in like, how disoriented is he right here when he first wakes up? Because he does kind of pick up on what's going on pretty quick, but
he's not extremely disoriented, but he is still, he has no idea what happened to him, and he still thinks he's going to be a big shot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
One of those guys who like sees it on TV and is like, I can do
that. And you're like, oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a lot that goes into it, and it can get real dangerous.
Right.
Cool. Yeah. So maybe just keep an eye on it, because I'm like, I don't know if this is just me not feeling the flow on that line for some reason, or if, you know, maybe there's a better, or maybe not better, but maybe there's like a different way that you could approach it and achieve a similar result. Just keep an eye on it.
Cool.
See how people respond.
Cool.
Why is there nothing written there? Oh, I remember what I had written there. So we've got a couple lines that all start with yes from the doctor.
Yeah.
The doctor is sort of yesing a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So you may want to kind of come up with, you know, like a different intro or something like that, just so it's not yes, 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 yes.
Cool.
And then, I wonder if this got like deleted whenever I had to like forcibly restart my computer because my computer froze. But I believe I had a thought on this line that it might be like, you might want to consider getting a little, like letting the doctor be a little more like highbrow doctorly
Mm-hmm.
here. So Jake says, you did a bunch of tests on me, and maybe the doctor could say, oh, it was necessary to ensure blah, blah, blah. Doctor talk. I so don't doctor or science. I am an actor and I work with words, but whatever like the natural doctor line would be there.
Right.
That would also take care of that. Yes. So kill two birds with one stone.
Cool.
Yep. Oh, I think this did get like halfway deleted. Hold on. We're just gonna fix this right now because it's gonna really bother me. If it will let me. Maybe it won't. So another little instance where you might be able to get kind of like, you know, doctorly. And then let's just save that before it goes away again. So maybe instead of, you know, considering how bad it could have been, you know, considering the likelihood of permanent damage, considering, you know, the potential for brain trauma, you know, some such phrase, just to, you know, from the doctor's perspective, this kid's not getting it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
He came in having been kicked in the head, like in my head, it was a flying sidekick. I don't know what the kick actually was, but
kind of, yeah. And
flying
he goes limp before he hits the ground. Yeah.
Yep. Flying sidekick would do that. He's got to learn to keep his hands up. Get your hands up.
Yeah.
Oh man, this is fun. So this kid's not getting it. Like he came in having been knocked unconscious by this big, powerful flying kick. And the doctor is like, why? Like, I know, like, bills are a concern, but you're not getting it. Like, you could have died.
Yes.
So I think go ahead and give the doctor let the doctor get a little more explicit on, like, how bad this could have been. Mm-hmm. And of course, Jake's just not getting it. That or the money is a bigger fear for him, mm-hmm. which seems to be the case. Oh, now I remember why I highlighted his. So did you perhaps switch the doctor's gender at one point? Because I think we've got doctor's a woman. And
yeah, or it might have been two. It should be a female. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe just
yeah. I'll look into that. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, that's part of why I'm here, is to help you guys catch these things. Maybe drop the "I'm afraid" from this line.
Cool.
It's kind of a preference thing, but it stands just fine with, well, your lucky day has gotten even luckier.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is ultimately a good thing. Like, somebody's gonna pay this kid's bills. Yay!
Right.
Everything's great. So Dad's picking him up. Good luck explaining this one to Dad.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Dad, I got into a street fight and didn't win. Also, flying head kick. I don't think I had any more dialogue notes. Nope. I do not care for his principal as a character, just based on these, like, 2 lines. His principal's kind of a jerk.
Yeah.
If that is the goal achieved. Principal's a jerk.
Cool.
Cool. So,
interesting. Did you find any, like, on the nose stuff? I'm usually an on the nose writer, but I'm trying to do my best not to be.
Mm-hmm. Well, nothing that felt on the nose that shouldn't feel on the nose, if that makes sense. So,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like, you know, this interchange with the doctor and, you know, Jake not wanting more tests and all that stuff, like, that could be described as, like, on the nose,
mm-hmm.
But it's not on the nose in a bad way.
Good.
You know what I mean? Because it's
doctor.
Yeah. Because this is an instance where, you know, these 2 characters need to be fairly explicit with what's going on. And you do have, there is some like subtextual tension in this for sure, that Jake is concerned about the money. So now, as I'm reading, I'm wondering why he's like, what is the concern with the money? Is he has he struck out on his own? Does his family not have health insurance and have the means to acquire health insurance? What's that situation like for him?
Cool.
Well, that is incredibly strange. I am somehow still logged in.
Yeah, there's two of you.
That's weird. Okay, well. Okay, great. The other me is gone now. Because I was like, is it gonna let me share my screen when the other me is sharing her screen? We're just like, I was listening to like a horror story podcast last night, and now I'm convinced that my computer is haunted. So
like some creepypasta, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pretty much. So, if like my head starts spinning and like weird things start happening, it's okay. It's just the ghost. Everybody's gonna be fine. Okay, fortune ahead. We were talking about all the nose dialogue. Yeah, so this, the interchange with the doctor, like it's fairly explicit, but not in a bad way, not in a way that makes me go, oh, let's like hide this information a little bit. There's definitely some tension with Dad. I don't want to talk. You can read, right? That's definitely got something behind it. I don't quite have the context to figure out what that is. Either like I had thought that, oh, he's been hit in the head so hard that maybe, like we're trying to determine whether or not he can see, or I don't know. He seemed, because he's got tension with the principal, so he seemed like it would not surprise me if he is somebody who has maybe been like skipping school.
Yeah, he has.
Yeah, like he's.
Yeah, and then the mention about the pouncing thing is because last time he was in the principal's office waiting for the principal, he was practicing his MMA moves and fell down. Yeah, and it was all caught on camera.
Oh, poor kid.
Yeah.
He's trying.
Yep.
Yeah. So nothing stuck out as like, oh, this is a little too much. We need to hide this info.
Cool.
And you do have some hidden stuff in there.
Cool. Great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so far the share seems to be going well, so let's leave it up for a second. Did you have like any particular lines or anything that you were like, oh, I'm not sure about this. Alex, can you please take a second look?
Not exactly. I find that I'm less on the nose and more visual when I'm writing a short compared to writing a feature. I kind of get lost in writing too much dialogue because of because I come from improv. So should I look at each scene like a short movie basically and try to make each scene as visual as possible? Because I've heard that feedback several times before about my writing.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good exercise. Like if nothing else, it's always worth a try. Like if something doesn't work, then no worries, we just don't try it that way again. But yeah, because there is that balance between visuals and the dialogue. And you do need both. Although if you are writing a short, then you don't have to have dialogue. But features, you pretty much do. There are probably some art house movies that don't, but for like mainstream commercial movies, we got to have characters talk.
Okay. Cool. That's good to know. Cool.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, guys, maybe like time number 5 is the charm for Zoom because it seems to be stable. So let me just save this just so that I can send you the little PDF with my stickies. If you want to look at it later, we shall unshare the screen. Okay, cool. Well, guys, that was, kind of like the presentation with some hiccups. We had some bumps in the road, but we got through them. We survived. Cool. Well, did anybody have any final questions, thoughts, feelings, emotions? You all feel ready to tackle dialogue and go out there and kill it now?
Yeah, I actually maybe have a question, I think.
Yeah,
and or maybe it's just not completely formulated, but it was more like when you have dialogue, and this is something I had listened to recently, where does all dialogue have to be connected to a character's intent? And that's something I've heard a few times.
Yeah.
I don't know how much to pay attention to that. It's important, I'm sure, it is. But how much do we want to pay attention to that?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say, because I take this with a little bit more of a, not grain of salt, but, it, does dialogue need to have intent behind it for why it's there? Yes, absolutely. Everything in the script needs to have an intent behind it for why it's there, because you have so few words. So when you're writing a novel, you have so much more space because that's all it's just words. That's all you got. So you can have a lot more words that are there just to effectively be there. I'm sorry, novelists. I wrote a novel. I'm allowed to say this about novelists. But there's a lot more freedom with your language just because you have so much more space to express yourself. Because scripts are so much shorter and the language is so much more condensed. You do need to have intent for why it's there and utility for it being there. That said, I think you're asking about character intent. When I say I want, me, Alex, in this scene that we're doing, I want a cup of coffee. My intent is for you to give me a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Yes and no. So there are movies and TV shows, I'm sorry that I've mentioned Tarantino a couple times, but Tarantino is the first one who comes to mind. There's some big old dialogue scenes in Tarantino where the characters are just sort of talking. They're just kind of talking in a circle. Now, we could probably argue that they have some kind of intent in what they're saying, but there was also that movie where everybody was really high. And we have a scene where everybody's just high as a kite. They're just chatting and it's funny. So
yeah, I just for some reason I just thought about that scene. If you've seen The Irishman,
I have not gotten around to it yet.
Okay, no, but I just thought of a scene where they're in a car and they talk about a fish. But yeah, it's actually a pretty funny scene in terms of the dialogue. But yeah, that would be an example, I think, where it just comes out of nowhere, but you're trying to figure out how it relates to what's happening in the scene. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like your big moments, you want things to be intentional for the characters. But if you think about how people actually talk, sometimes we just sort of talk, and it doesn't always fit with every movie. So you have an easier time getting away with this in a comedy. Scorsese probably should have trimmed The Irishman quite a bit. That's part of why I haven't watched it, because I feel like I have to block out a whole afternoon.
Yeah.
But yeah, in a comedy, it's easier to have characters just talking, and the intent is just the wordplay, right, or the lead up to the joke.
Yeah.
The more serious genres, it's doable, but you probably want to minimize it a little bit or make it a part of that character. So then it almost feels like it has character intent, even though it might not necessarily. So if you have, this is going to be a bad example, but if you have a horror film, you've got your cast of teenagers who are going to run away from the bad guy with a chainsaw, and you've got like the funny one, you know, the comic relief, if you will. They can just talk about a bunch of random stuff all the time, and it could be funny and interesting and kind of weird, and the audience is more likely to go with it than like, you know, the Stalworth. Yeah, the like straightforward hero.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that helped at all, but that was my sort of rambling answer.
Yeah, I think I got the gist of that.
Yeah, yeah. All right, cool. Well, guys, yeah, you have any more? Did I answer them all? Did I help?
I have another one.
Go for it.
Which is also regarding like trimming dialogue. I hear a lot about you know, trimming it down so it doesn't drain the scene, which I'm getting better at. I think I did like the last draft or the last 2 drafts. I did a lot of that. But going back to something earlier you said, which I've also heard a lot, which is, you know, come in late, leave early of a scene. I often think about sometimes if you're in the cafe in the date scene, where if you want to show a little more just to build it in terms of like a tension, or because I'm on the fence of whether or not to show more of that waiting for that date to show up or coming in later, as you know, we were mentioning.
Yeah.
So I guess it depends.
Yeah, it does depend. Typically, I feel like whenever we say, you know, trim the dialogue and come in late, leave early, because a lot of times when people, especially on first drafts, like I do this on first drafts, a lot of writers do this on first drafts, is you kind of overwrite things because you're sort of feeling it out as you go. Like, you know, you have your outline, you have your note cards, you have whatever prep it is you do, but then you're kind of discovering how the scene is going to play as you're writing it. So at least for me, I often write a lot of extra dialogue and a lot of extra like setup for the action, just because I'm figuring it out as I go. So that's different than having, like, let's say it's a spy drama set in the cafe and somebody's waiting for, you know, their contact in wherever we are to come and deliver the information, and the person is late. And so they're there in the cafe by themselves, and like the tension is mounting, they're looking around, like that person has sunglasses on, is that a spy? Oh, the barista's looked at me twice, is she a spy?
Yeah.
Because that's like motivated, you know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas us trying to figure it out as we write isn't necessarily motivated like within the filmmaker logic of the script, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, everybody's your homework now is to go write a short film about a spy in a coffee shop. I kind of like that all of a sudden. I was like, oh, that's fun. Let's all do that. Well, all right, guys, we are just about out of time. I don't want to keep you all day, but even though I think some of the time was spent on Alex's technology, and so very sorry for that. Cool. So I can go ahead and send you the PDFs with my little sticky notes and my little highlights. If for some reason the sticky notes and the highlights don't come through over email because I'm having a technology day, just let me know and I'll, you know, send it to you by carrier pigeon or something. I'll get it to you somehow.
I would like that.
Because I'm like, clearly I can't trust the internet. The internet is doing me dirty today. So I will get it to you somehow. We'll send the recording out. Yeah. And then, you know, you guys have my email, so feel free to shoot me an email with like revised pages. Like if you want help with the log line, just, hey, Alex, this movie has great dialogue. Check it out. All of that, totally acceptable. I am on my email all the time. Nobody's going outside, so it's not like I'm, you know, going to leave or anything like that. So just give me a call if you need me.
Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much.
Yeah, well, thank you guys. Take care, stay healthy and safe. Thank you for being patient with me today. Hopefully it was helpful and informative, and I will see you all in the next one.
See you soon. Thank you.
See you soon. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.